Next on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
On this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we're taking your calls live. We've assembled leaders from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association to discuss issues that matter to you. NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen starts right now.
And now, a live edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen with host Kevin Oxner.
Hello and welcome to this special live edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Oxner. Thanks for joining us. Tonight, we're live from Denver, Colorado, and we're taking your questions about topics ranging from the political climate on Capitol Hill to specific issues like GIPSA, energy policy, the environmental policy, and the NCBA organization itself. It should certainly be a lively and informative discussion this evening. And here to take your calls are several of our industry leaders, including, of course, our president, Steve Foglesong from Illinois, I should say, Steve. We have Bill Donald, president-elect of NCBA from Montana. Scott George comes to us from Wyoming. He's a dairyman up there and also the chairman of the Federation of State Beef Councils. And, of course, our very own Colin Woodall from Washington, D.C., the vice president of government affairs. Gentlemen, thanks for coming this evening.
Good to be here.
We want to hear from you, and we'd love to get some questions started. So give us a call. The number you want to call is 1-888-824-6688, or just email us your questions at C2C@beef.org. We'll look forward to hearing from you this evening. So let's learn a little bit about our guest. Steve, do you want to get started and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, Kevin. And I know you know, and most of the viewers know, we're from West Central Illinois,
Yep.
where my wife and family and I, we are cow-calf guys, ranchers, and we do a heifer development deal there as well. And got a whole raft of grandkids that are probably home watching this show. So
that's good stuff.
Looking forward to getting on with some questions.
You bet. Bill, tell us about Montana.
Well, Montana is green this year. We've got a great grass year going. I'm a cattle rancher from south central Montana, along with my family. We have a cow-calf yearling operation. Just celebrated our centennial last year, so we're proud of that.
And Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and your operation.
I'm in a partnership with two brothers in Cody, Wyoming. We have a dairy operation, and then we have a small cow-calf operation so that I can kind of fit in with some other folks as well. We've been in business there for a number of years, and we have our nephews have joined part of our operation as well.
Very good. Well, thanks for coming tonight. Colin, you've been on the show many times, but tell folks a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, I head up the Washington office of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, where our team spends every day wearing out a whole lot of boot leather, working in the halls of Congress and also in the administration, making sure the voice of all of our members and these gentlemen are being heard day in, day out, because we've got a lot of pressures on the cattle industry. And the only way we're going to be able to change it for the better and make sure we have the opportunity to be successful is to be up there every single day, and that's what NCBA does.
Well, I suspect we'll have a few questions for you tonight as well. We're excited to take your calls. Please give us a ring at 1-888-824-6688, or again, email us your questions at C2C@beef.org. We're standing by waiting to hear from you, and I hear we have our first caller, JJ from Nevada. JJ, are you here?
Yes, I am. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. Thanks for calling. What's your question?
This is probably for Colin. Colin, in light of the actions of the Senate earlier this week to scrap some major climate legislation due to not being able to secure 60 votes, what do you think the future of the Lincoln-Kyle estate tax bill is? And if not this bill, can Congress get any traction to get anything moving on this estate tax?
Boy, that's a great question, and JJ's spot on. This has been a long-time priority for NCBA to make sure we find some sort of solution to the death tax. It has been a problem to our industry for many years. A lot of people on Capitol Hill claim that this is a tax for the rich. What they don't understand is that the Paris Hiltons of the world, they have the money to pay for the lawyers and the accountants to protect their estates. Sure. But cattle producers, we all know, asset rich, cash poor. And every time you have a little money saved up to actually invest in estate planning, there's always a tractor that needs to be invested in, or there's fence that needs to be fixed. There's always something to take up that money. So we've got to find a solution, because we're really under the gun here. On January 1st of this year, the death tax is going to go back to only a $1 million exemption, and everything over that's going to be taxed at 55%. And these days, it doesn't take an operation of too big a size to have assets worth $1 million. So we've got to get something done. But JJ's right. The question is, can we get that magic 60 votes to try to get the Lincoln-Kyle Amendment across the goal line. The Lincoln-Kyle Amendment would increase the thresholds to $5 million per person, $10 million per couple, and everything over that would be taxed at a reduced rate of 35%. It'll keep the step up in basis, and it'll be tied to inflation. We think it's a good program. It's not complete repeal, but in this Congress, we're not going to get a complete repeal. But we've got to find some sort of relief.
What can people do if they get the issue, like JJ does? What should they be doing over the next couple of weeks?
Now, right now, the Senate's in session for 2 more weeks. They need to call their senators and say, you have to vote for the Lincoln-Kyle Amendment. It's doable. We've passed this in just a year ago. We passed the Lincoln-Kyle Amendment. So we know that we can do it, but it's going to take grassroots producers calling up their senators, both their senators, and saying, you have to protect the family farm. Let's pass the Lincoln-Kyle Amendment.
Yeah, this is a critical issue. We've got another caller. Thanks for calling, Chris. Got another caller, Kevin, calling us from Texas. Go ahead, Kevin.
Good evening, gentlemen. What does the extension to the gypsum rule mean for us, and what is the best way for us to follow it here in the country? Follow the status.
A big win for NCBA, clearly, getting that extension created on past the August 28th or 27th, 28th session, right? Colin, what would you say about that?
This gypsum rule is a huge deal to the cattle industry, because what it boils down to is the federal government telling cattlemen how, when, where they can market their cattle. We just don't think that's right. We don't think big government should be in the marketplace. Now, on the outside, and when you hear the rhetoric from some groups and from USDA, they're going to tell you, well, this is all about transparency. This is about making the marketplace better. But you also have to be extremely cognizant of what's under the hood. You can't take rules out of the administration or laws out of Congress at face value. If you do, you are doomed to fail, because there are always the unintended consequences. And a lot of groups jumped out there as soon as this thing came out and said, oh, this is a good deal. NCBA was a little bit more thoughtful, because we looked at it every angle we could, and what we found out is that this is not about transparency. This is about the government telling cattlemen how to market cattle. There's a lot of concerns. The biggest one is the liability change. Basically, they change it so you can sue anybody just if you think it's unfair. Now, I dare say that the 4 of us are probably going to have different definitions of what is fair depending on the issue. So to stake legal cases and the future of cattle marketing on what somebody might think is fair is ludicrous. It's a trial lawyer's bonanza is what it ends up being.
Absolutely.
And what we told USDA is we need more than just 60 days to analyze this, educate the countryside, and let folks know what this does. So we were successful in getting a 90-day extension. We're very happy with that, because it's going to get us the opportunity to use things like Cattlemen to Cattlemen, our summer meeting, and our publications to educate producers that this is not about the packers. And I want to make that very clear. A lot of people say this is about kicking the packers. The packers are easy targets. They're easy to hate, but this is not about them, because what they've told us is, we'll use this to our advantage. What this is really about is the hit on producers. Producers that have spent years now trying to put together alternative marketing arrangements, contracting opportunities to find ways to get paid for the value that they add to their cattle. They're the ones that are going to lose. The consumers are going to lose, because they're no longer going to get those branded products that they've had. So this is not about the packers. This is about the producers. And it's going to impact a lot of people, including Bill and everything that he's doing on his operation.
Yeah, that's right, Kevin. You know, there's some neighbors around me that have worked on their cow herds and built up a genetic base, and then have sold into a marketing agreement where those cattle would go into a branded product. And they're concerned that these rules would make those types of programs go away, or at least put burden on them to prove why they're getting those premiums. They have to be able to prove it under these. They have the burden of proof. That's a big change. And the other thing we look at is what impact is this going to have on our consumers? Are they going to still have the same consistent products that they have now, or is that going to interfere with that, and is it going to raise the price? Or this litigation that starts is going to have to be paid from somewhere, and there's only 2 places to put money in the system. Either the consumer has to spend more, or the producer gets less, and that's a big concern for cattle ranchers all across the country.
That's pretty plain and simple economics. Well, we appreciate hearing from you, and we want you to keep those questions coming. Again, call us at 1-888-824-6688, or just email us at c2c@beef.org. Now, we have another caller calling from Florida. Yvonne, are you still with us?
Yes.
Go ahead. Can we hear you? Let's try to get... Are you there?
Hi, I would like to know what the going rate from a cow from Wyoming is.
Cattle, say that again, cattle from Latin America, what? Oh, mad cow disease. What's your question about mad cow disease? You might just respond. Yeah. Okay. Yvonne will try to catch back up with you. Bob, you're calling us from Kansas. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm curious about what the EPA is up to these days. We've seen them pretty aggressive here with this administration, and now they're talking about regulating dust. What's going to be the status? Are they going to make us water these rock roads out here in Kansas, or what are they up to?
That's a great question. Colin, I know you all are dealing with that right now.
The simple answer is the EPA is up to no good.
Yeah.
That's what they're up to. And unfortunately, we see it on several different issues. What Bob just said is he talked about the dust rule. EPA is looking at taking a 10-fold decrease in the acceptable levels of dust. It would take it so low that basically overnight we would put our nation's food and fiber producing ability at risk because tillage operations, harvesting operations, feedlots, small cow lots, even driving your pickup truck on your ranch road to check your cows would pick up more dust than what EPA is going to say is acceptable. We hear a lot of rhetoric from this administration that we need to preserve family farms and we need to preserve the ability to feed the world, but we have an EPA that's not listening to that same rhetoric. They're looking at trying to make it so tight on us regulation-wise that there'd be no way that we could keep people in business producing our food and fiber. Because what are we going to do? He mentions a great thing. Are we going to have to water all of our dirt roads? EPA's solution was we're only going to till at night. They don't understand what's going on, and so it's been incumbent upon us as NCBA to get out there and really educate them on what impact these crazy regulations could potentially have on agriculture. It's a big job, and once again, we need people to actually pick up the phone and call their members in Congress and say, Congress, you've got to get involved as well.
And you need to load up a bunch of those folks in buses and ship them out to Illinois and Montana and Wyoming and show them actually how we produce the food and fiber for this country and around the globe.
Oh, absolutely.
We have our next caller. It's Max from North Dakota. Max, go ahead.
Hi. I'm just wondering if everybody there thinks that the grass-fed beef market is going to increase, or if it's kind of stabilized, or if that's a good thing to get into.
All right. Who wants to discuss? Clearly, we've seen a lot of segmentation going on in the beef market, and there's lots of different types of products out there that consumers. We read the article here a while back about the world's greatest steak, or what was the article that the In Search of the World's Greatest Steak, and so forth. What's your read on that? What's a grass-fed beef market going to do, Scott?
Well, I see
Bill,
that sort of a niche marketing playing a role.
Yeah.
There is demand for that. There are producers that are willing to configure their operation so they can sell into that market. And I think one of the important things that we look at when we look at these gypsy rules, how is that going to affect something like that? We've got some of these fledgling, if you will, type niche markets that we like to encourage because we want to raise beef for every consumer. And so that's all good stuff. We just want to make sure they have the ability to produce that product.
Scott, do you have anything?
I recently attended a Chekhov-funded activity out in California. It was called the Live Well event. And they brought in food nutritionists and food communicators from across the nation, and they had quite a series of events. And one of the things they talked about was the difference between grass-fed beef and corn-fed beef or grain-fed beef. And it was very interesting for these people to hear from producers that are actually producing these different products. And our chef also talked about the challenges of cooking grass-fed versus the others.
Interesting.
But like Bill has said, there is a product for everybody. And you want to produce those products so that the consumer can have what he wants. And so whether that will continue to grow or not, I don't know. But it is out there, and it is a viable niche for the industry right now.
Colin, what's your read from the Beltway?
Well, the read is what we're talking about here with these niche market programs. That goes back to our comments about the gypsy rule. This would eliminate a lot of these programs that we're talking about because they can no longer get paid for this niche market and for the value that they're putting on and for the customers that they're trying to satisfy. This
so
would
in essence, what you're saying is I as a producer could file a lawsuit saying you're paying Bill more for his grass-fed beef, and I don't think that's fair.
That's all the basis you need under this rule.
I'm being damaged by that. and then a lawsuit ensues. Is that what you're telling me?
That's exactly right. So if somebody thinks that people who are doing grass-fed that are satisfying this niche market, if they just think that that's unfair, it could launch a lawsuit and eliminate a lot of these programs. So that's why this GIPSA rule is such a big deal.
I'll tell you from my personal perspective, I think that anything we can do to enhance people's willingness to eat beef, there's lots of different market segments, lots of different consumers out there. My biggest issue is, can we not do that without disparaging the rest of the industry? I think it's incumbent on all of us to sell the qualities and the characteristics of our specialty products without throwing the entire commodity industry or the rest of the industry under the bus. And I've seen that done very, very effectively by some branded beef companies. We have Matt from Missouri calling. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate the program, and my question has to do with the cap and trade law.
Oh, yeah.
Is it still going, or is there something? I heard something that there might be some more going on.
You're a big fan of the cap and trade law, aren't you?
You know, it's just one that won't go away. With Congress, you can never take anything for granted because you never know what they've got up their sleeves. So even though that we think that it's dead right now in the Senate, there could be some efforts to try to bring it back up. You know, the House passed it last year. It passed by 1 vote. There's a lot of buyer's remorse from members of the House, though, that made that vote and realized that that was not the popular thought back home. And I think because of that, the Senate has taken a little bit slower approach. They know that they don't have the magic 60-vote number that they need to pass it. So what we have seen is an energy bill that has been scaled back. It really looks at things like the BP oil spill. It doesn't really tackle climate change or cap and trade. So right now we think we're in good shape, but we're going to keep a close eye on it because we don't want to rest on our laurels here.
Stay tuned. Well, we sure invite you to keep those calls coming. We love this meaty discussion. Just give us a call at 1-888-824-6688 or email us at c2c@beef.org. We'll return with more questions and answers with these leaders from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association right after this.
Profit, confidence, value. That's what you get with Tri-Merit, a USDA process-verified program brought to your operation by Global Animal Management Incorporated. Tri-Merit's data management system certifies traditional health processes as well as verifies age and source of individual and groups of animals. To learn more about how Tri-Merit can play a positive role in your operation, visit mygamonline.com.
Purina's wind and rain minerals are research tested and field proven to provide balanced mineral nutrition essential for cattle health, growth, and reproduction. They're highly palatable so cattle consume what they need when they need it. And wind and rain minerals special formulation resists the elements so they won't blow out of the feeder and maintain their palatability even if they've been wet. Wind and rain cattle minerals from Purina Mills, building better cattle.
Draxxin, clearly cattlemen's #1 choice to fight BRD. Here's why.
Nothing is more depressing in a stalker business as the doctor. And you still have your chronics, you still have your death loss. And with Draxxin, we just found out that, especially with microplasts, you just had to be there to see the results.
And the evidence backs up what most cattlemen already know. Draxxin cuts chronics and mortalities by 70%. So talk to your veterinarian and check the online calculator at Draxxin.com. You'll see, nothing gives you more for your money when you're fighting BRD.
Just a great antibiotic. Very, very effective. Don't let the price tag scare you. It's a no-brainer. You just use it.
Do not use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older. Do not use in calves to be processed for veal. Draxxin has a pre-slaughter withdrawal time of 18 days. Please visit Draxxin.com or call 1-888-DRAXXIN for more information.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us for this special live edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Tonight, we're taking your calls on issues ranging from the year's midterm elections to what NCBA is doing for cattlemen across the country. And joining us in the studio tonight, of course, are President Steve Foglesong from Illinois. We've got Bill Donald, the President-elect from Montana. Scott George is the chairman of NCBA's Federation of Beef Councils and hails from Wyoming. And, of course, Colin Woodall our Vice President of Government Affairs from our Washington, D.C. office. Again, gentlemen, thank you, and thank you all for your questions. Please give us a call. The number again is 1-888-824-6688. We really appreciate your questions. If you're nearby a computer, you can also email them to us at c2c@beef.org if you're having trouble getting through on the phone lines. Well, let's get back on the lines. I understand we have a call from Jacob from Mississippi. Jacob, are you there?
I am.
Go for it, man.
Greetings from Mississippi. I don't have a question. I just want to pep talk you fellows to keep us cattlemen informed as to what's going on in Washington and what we should address when we call our legislators. And the fact is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Change for the sake of change is not really good. Thank you for your efforts, and please continue.
Well, Jacob, thank you. That's quite a nice call, and I think a hand goes out to all of you who every day are doing the kinds of things for folks like Jacob and myself that just can't spend our days in Washington, D.C. and state capitol.
Thanks, Jacob.
Yeah, go ahead.
I might comment on that too. Jacob, we really appreciate that sentiment. We need lots of folks just like Jacob. Yeah. And when Colin and the folks in D.C. call or we email with an advisory that we need help, it's the rank and file producer out there that needs to pick up the phone, write a pen, and send an email. We've talked about several of those subjects tonight, and that is the most important thing. And when every time I give a speech, that's one of my stump issues there, is it's not enough just to be an NCBA member anymore. You've got to be an active participant in this process that we're going through, because Congress weighs stuff by votes, and there are so few of us, you know, that are in agriculture and in the beef business in particular, that unless we all participate and let our wishes be known, we've got nobody to blame but ourselves when it doesn't work out for us. So I really appreciate his sentiment, and we'll keep working that, and expect me to call.
That's good. Sounds like we've got fellow Coloradoan on the phone. JT, go ahead.
I have a question about the PETA people.
Sure.
Is there any way we can get them so that they can listen to us a little bit about what we have to say?
So that they hear the positive message. That's a great question, guys. What are the kinds of things? And historically, PETA people very often show up in conferences at Denver and other places, and have wonderful little protests with their naked ketchup-filled bodies and, you know, wrapped in cellophane on the streets. What should we be doing to get our message to some of these PETA folks?
Well, I think one of the things that it's important that we bring to that discussion is the stewardship that cattlemen bring to not just the land but also the animals that we raise. And the cattle that we raise are under good care because obviously to us they're our livelihood, but more importantly than that, when you live around those animals all the time, you become attached, and we definitely have to take care of them. So we are probably do more for animal welfare than a lot of people maybe understand.
And JT, I would say, you know, we NCBA are starting a lot of work actually in the social media. It sounds like you may be a younger person. I'd challenge you. People respond well to that kind of stuff. I mean, take pictures of what you're doing, let people know via Twitter, Facebook, whatever else, what you're doing, and tell our side proactively instead of waiting for the PETA attack and then defending that. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely it does, because it truly is about telling our story, because we got a great story to tell.
Yeah. And
another thing that we have going is the MBA program, the Masters of Beef Advocacy, and that is open to anyone that wants to engage in that, and it's a 6-hour course, and it basically allows people in our industry to be spokesmen for our industry.
Yeah, take a look at our website to get more information on the Masters of Beef Advocacy program. That's a great point. Owen, you're calling from Missouri tonight. Go ahead.
Yes, I was wondering what's going to be done about to combat the environmentalists who are trying to get animals out of agriculture.
The environmentalists environmentalists and other animal activists that simply don't want us utilizing mercy for animals. I don't know if you've seen some of the video that they've had and so forth. They literally are against animal agriculture.
One of the things that we've got in our area, we have a lot of federal lands, and there is a movement to get those permits taken away from ranchers, and with environmental groups trying to buy them up and take the cattle off. And that is really our first line of defense, is the Public Lands Council and the people on federal lands, because the environmentalists feel that they have ownership in that, and so they have a bigger say. So we really work well with the Public Lands Council. They're our first line of defense, and that really is a battleground.
Steve, you're from a populous state of Illinois and close to Chicago, and I mean, what would you tell us relative to how do we defend ourselves or proactively position ourselves for folks that really would like to see animal agriculture gone in the United States?
Well, you know, it pervades virtually everything. I think what Colin does in all of those agencies, we see that animal activist, environmentalist theme played out in every law. We see it in everything that happens, because that's behind the scenes working to take animals off of the land. You know, and the reality of it is, it's much like we had on our last call, the answer lies within us ourselves, telling our story, how good of stewards we are, telling about the environment and how we take care of that, how we take care of our livestock. It's not enough to be the best farmers and ranchers to feed the country and feed the world. Now we also have to be willing to go out and tell our story. There's so few people that really understand where their food comes from, and that, so consequently they're very gullible to some of this stuff that is just total misinformation. And in the absence of correct information, people will believe that. We have to fill that void, take it upon ourselves as producers to get out there, learn how to do blogs and those sorts of things. Learn how to give a 2-minute elevator speech, if you will. Yep. When you hear misinformation, get out there and talk about it and tell folks what we do. Yep. I really think, you know, most people in this country, they would really like to, they're reasonable. They want to believe us. They want to be partners with cowboys when they go to buy their food, and we just need to take advantage of that and go out and be a part of that and present ourselves in a positive light.
That's a great point. You know, we have to go to break quickly, but I want to get in this question that's come to us via email. This is from Mark in Alabama, and I think I'll turn the question to you, Scott. What's up with beef prices? He mentions that he and his wife used to eat beef a couple times a week, and he's seen a lot of fluctuations in beef prices. Can you tell us what's going on there? I can try a little bit. A lot of it is just pure economics. We've had troubles in the industry for the last several years for profitability, and so our cow herds numbers have shrunk. I would give you a little bit of advice. When the prices are low, buy a lot, put it in the freezer. When they go high, then just sit back a little bit, but don't stop eating it. We've done a lot of work with checkoff dollars to show that beef is a vital part of a good, balanced, nutritious diet. You need to keep it in there. We'd like to see you keep it in there, as well as the flavor that people enjoy so much. So I would watch the prices, and if you can buy low, buy a lot. Stock up your freezer. That's good. Go. We had a follow-up question from Rich in Illinois, who's asking us about beef safety. You know, we've seen a lot in the news. It is a critical, you know, hot point issue. Who wants to take a crack at what's going on from a beef safety standpoint? I would like to take that crack. Go for it. You know, they play together right now. We've had just two questions about animal handling and animal welfare, yes, and beef safety. And a lot of groups that don't want animal agriculture are trying to group those all together, and they also throw in beef safety on top of it. And with our checkoff dollars, we're trying to address every one of those issues. Beef safety is a high priority. We do continual work with the industry to make sure that the products that we're putting out is safe. We're making sure we're addressing the concerns. We're trying to address the nutrition concerns. We're trying to address the handling and the welfare of our animals. All of those things are being funded with checkoff dollars. Sure. And doing a tremendous amount of work with it. Yeah, we really are doing good progress. What was the report? I don't know if anyone can recall. Wasn't it just earlier this year, the report that showed the progress we're making? Was it with E. coli? I can't recall what was out. It was in the progress towards the 2010 Healthy People goals, yes, that were put out by, yes, the government. Yeah. And the great job that we did as an industry to meet those goals. Yeah. And that has been because of all the work that the industry has put together and trying to find ways to make sure that we can have a safe product that our consumer always has confidence in eating. Absolutely, absolutely. It's all of our job. Thanks, gentlemen. This is a great discussion, and we'll be right back with more viewer questions after this. Please stay with us.
You like the John Deere 568 round baler for everything it has. Now, you'll like it even more for what it doesn't. Get rid of the twine tie system and run a 568 with nothing but net. That's right, nothing but easy loading, fast wrapping, bale protecting, cover edge net wrap. Put one to work in your field. See your John Deere dealer today.
Discover a great roundup for beef producers. Now, Behringer Ingelheim Vetmedica Incorporated has rounded up the top brands of animal health products. You bet your boots you won't find more ways to protect your cattle. So trust the leader to protect your cattle. Trust Behringer Ingelheim. Talk to your Behringer Ingelheim animal health representative and discover how we can help your operation.
Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. NCBA is the premier cattle industry organization representing your best interests in Washington, D.C. and across the country.
I want to have my voice heard, and this is the strongest way I can speak it is through NCBA. And my little voice gets a lot of magnitude with this group.
Well, I've been an NCBA member for a long time. My family thoroughly believes in giving back to the industry that they make a living from, and I've carried that on from generation to generation, and this is the organization of choice for the beef industry.
Every day, NCBA works to represent you on issues including trade, taxes, food safety and nutrition, animal welfare, and the environment.
The main reason I'm an NCBA member is to become engaged and more knowledgeable about everything that's going on in the beef industry.
It's easy to join NCBA. Just visit beefusa.org or call us at 1-866-USA-BEEF.
Welcome back to the show. We're sure enjoying taking viewer calls live tonight with the experts from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, and there's still time for you to call in. So please give us a call at 1-888-824-6688 or just send us an email at c2c@beef.org. We look forward to hearing from you. And to begin with, we have a call from Claire. She's calling us from Texas. Go ahead, Claire. Claire, are you there? All right, maybe not. Is there another caller? Scott? Oh, it sounds like there may be a call from Kansas coming in. Cole, I'm sorry. Cole from Kansas. Go ahead, Cole.
Hi, gentlemen. I have an uncle in western Kansas with a feedlot that holds 2,000 cattle and currently only feeding 2 pens. Do you guys see a future for starter yards?
Great question. So what is the future for smaller kind of starter yards, Steve?
Well, I spent the last 2 days driving across the Midwest from Illinois to come out here. Okay. And a lot of yards are sitting there, with not many cattle in them. But, they're going to start filling up here just as soon as the fall run starts. As we have seen the prices of feed continue to go up, it sure seems like it's a better deal, to get those calves started somewhere before they wind up, in a feed yard. And I think a starter yard's an awful good spot. I mean, if you can find somebody that's really good at taking them calves and starting them, those of us that are in the feed yard business, we want to talk because we're looking for somebody to get them going. And I think especially, it sounds like a younger fellow there, if he could get involved, I think it's a good business to get involved in.
Outstanding. Tyler,
I just wanted to mention, Steve mentioned the size of the cow herd. Yeah. And we are at record lows in our cow herd since 1950. That's going to be one of the focal points of our summer conference here that's starting this week. And that is, as an industry, how are we going to address that small cow herd and what can we do to get that back up there where we have more opportunities for more cattle producers?
Yeah, you have a great panel discussion on that. That should be a lot of fun.
Be good.
Tyler, you're calling us from California. Go ahead.
I have a question. I'm a young 23-year-old college student from Reedley College, and that's in the San Joaquin Valley. And I'm in a small niche business for cattle, and I did the whole FFA experience. That was awesome and stuff. And I'm starting out just breeding some cattle, doing my thing, and just what's the key for success to make my dream job? Ranching and stuff.
Tyler, are you raising breeding cattle or trying to do a niche beef marketing, or what are you doing?
Breeding cattle and selling my offspring for kids who want to show, or freezer beef, or just, if they need a replacement animal locally.
Well, here's the deal. I think it's cool that a 23-year-old is engaged and looking for ways to start this business because you and I both know that the average age of the beef cow producer in the country is, what, 56 or 57 years old?
Yep.
And we got to have a bunch of young guns like Tyler wanting to get in this business. What would you tell him?
Well, I think one of the things that I talk about with my sons, and they're involved on the ranch with us, is that quality is important. If you're just starting out, it's a lot easier to start with good quality and maintain it and know what you're raising. You'll always have a easier time marketing quality than if you don't, and it's easier to start with something good than have to go back in and fix it. So one of my words of advice, I guess, to Tyler would be to start with quality and find a type of cattle that fits your environment and go with that.
Yeah, and I would go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing I might add too, you know, he said he's 23 years old. Yep. He's just getting started. One of the things he said, he talked about being in college. Once he's out of college, he needs to continue that education. Yeah. And a really great place to do that is at NCBA. We've got a Young Producers Council. Yep. He fits right into there and has the opportunity in that group, because there are folks that are his age, to network with other people that are trying to do the same thing he's doing. Yeah. And then learn some of the lessons that some of us old guys, like Bill in particular, you know, we don't need to repeat that. Yeah. But he'll get an opportunity to meet those folks, and I think through that interaction with other cattle producers, he can get a long ways down the road.
Yeah. And I would also say, Tyler, you know, look for opportunities for satellite and cooperative herd kind of things. There's lots of neat opportunities going on in the seed stock business. And I think for somebody who has a fire in their belly, there's some neat opportunities. We have, is it Jimmy from Alabama?
Yes.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Well, my question was, how did doubling the membership, how did that cost you in number of members? And wouldn't you have been better off to have raised your revenue somewhere else than to lose members through increasing the membership?
Increasing the membership dues you're talking about?
Yes.
Go ahead, guys.
Well, one of the things I think it's important to keep in mind, Jimmy, is the value of that membership. And we went from $50 to $100 membership, and I fully understand the concern, especially on the producers with less than 50 head of cows. It seems like a lot. But we raised that all the way up at every level. So it is important that the membership fund the important work that Colin and his crew are doing in D.C. We do have other sources of income, but it is incumbent on the membership to pay for that service, because as an industry we can't get by without it. So it's unfortunate we have to raise our dues from that perspective, but it is absolutely essential from the effectiveness at Colin's shop.
Yeah, and Todd Johnson, my friend at NCBA, quickly reminded me the other day that that's 27 cents a day is the way he positions it to me. And when it's broken down like that, that is pretty affordable. But clearly, all of us are dealing with the same things, and it is a doubling of dues, and so I understand the challenge. Go ahead.
I think Bill started on that track, but if we want to stay in business, and it doesn't matter how big a producer you are, we absolutely have to protect our business interests, and the only way we can do that is to keep a really solid team working in Washington, D.C., and that's where those membership dollars, you know, are focused. And we absolutely have to be willing to fund that. And all of us will have to join hands together. It's going to cost us more. There are fewer producers out there, but the problems haven't gotten any less. And it's incumbent upon us, you know, to pony up and spend the money to make sure we keep a team out there fighting for us every day.
Another thing, just to put that in perspective, is I don't know if Jimmy has seen the ad for HSUS, but they show all the poor dogs and cats that are abused, and they say $19 a month you could save these dogs and cats, of which very little goes towards any shelters. But just to put that in perspective, that $19 a month is well over $200 a year, and we're only asking for $100.
Yeah, from people who make their livelihood in this business. Eddie from Arizona, go ahead with your call.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I two questions.
Go ahead.
I live up in northeastern Arizona, Springerville. I got two questions. I watch RFD all the time about the cattle sales and stuff like that. Why does the western part of the states get less money? If you go into Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Wyoming, Montana, they bring a lot more money. And number two is we have ranches that's on the Forest Department, and the elk is eating us out of house and home.
Well, I can identify with you on that one because we've got a lot of elk in Montana as well.
That's right.
And one of the things that I think that we have done in Montana is attempt through the Montana Stockgrowers Association, the NCBA state affiliate, to work with sportsmen's groups and the Game and Fish Department to rectify those. That it's really is a state-by-state issue. They are on federal forest lands, but they're considered properties of the state. They're the state animals, and so that is a hard issue to get a handle on. One of the things we have in our area that's moving them around into our ranch is that the wolves are running them out of the park area, and so they're scattering out in broader areas.
What about the pricing disparity? Disparity?
Well, Kevin, a lot of times, it's a freight issue.
Sure.
With the price of fuel getting up to where it is, I know we buy an awful lot of cattle out of the southeast. We'd love to buy western cattle, but I can't afford to bring them that far because of the price of fuel. And it depends on the competition, that's in there from feed yards. I'm not sure exactly right where he is or how many feed yards are there. If they're buying those calves, and they're full up, then they're just not that opportunity. And then typically the freight will cause that issue.
Yeah. And clearly there's always genetics, preconditioning issues.
Sure.
It seems to me like it's getting a lot more complex relative to what factors go into how much each one of us get for our calves. We've got Pam for Virginia calling us. Pam, what's your question?
I have two questions. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
My first question is, what detriment is it to our U.S. beef industry that our U.S. government allowed Brazil to purchase Swift Beef Company in Colorado? And my follow-up question that would be, how much Brazilian beef is presently coming into the United States?
Okay. Colin, you want to?
Looks like a Colin question.
Yes, no?
Well, I can talk about the Brazilian beef. There's not fresh Brazilian beef coming to the United States. And that's because of foot and mouth disease and the restrictions that are out there. There have been some efforts to try to relax that. But we have made it very clear from NCBA's point that we're going to have to make sure we have a true risk assessment and make sure that everything is in place from both governments, both the United States government and the Brazilian government, before we would ever look at trying to bring in fresh beef or live cattle, just because we have to protect the safety of our domestic herd. So right now, the only thing that's coming in is cooked product. I don't have an exact amount, but most of the stuff that you find in your canned stews and what have you.
What would you guys say relative to the globalization of the industry and JBS's involvement?
I would comment on Colin about the Brazilian beef issue too. I was there earlier this spring.
Okay.
From what I witnessed, we're a long ways from being able to understand that they can control a single state and be able to ship cattle out of there into the U.S. The borders and the issues that...
You're talking about a state in Brazil.
Exactly. The infrastructure in Brazil will never pass muster, for our health folks. And as far as bringing in foreign outside, we'll call it the Brazilian dollars that came in, they have the option, to come in there. We don't have a border that's closed to that kind of investment. And then that the Justice Department took a long, hard look at that. And we have to and support the Justice Department making a decision on whether there's a concentration issue. And it's their job to do that. And we support that all the time. They looked at it and then they allowed it. There'll be people all across the country that have a different opinion on whether we should do that or not. But in this situation, it's not up to us. It is up to the government, and they made that decision, and that's where we're at.
Okay. I guess I'd like to weigh in a little bit on that purchase, because as a purveyor, we sell feeder cattle. And it's important that we have enough capacity in the feedlot sector and the packing sector. And when JBS took that over, we were in danger of losing some of those plants. And that is a bad thing for all cow-calf producers, all feedlot producers, because if we lose our packing capacity, then that is going to put excess downward price pressure on our producers. And so we have to look at that, balancing the capacity at every segment.
One thing I'll add on to that too is, JBS is the largest meat packer in the world. And they are experts at shipping those products, taking the steer apart and shipping them everywhere where the most value comes from it.
Sure.
And it's pretty hard for those of us that are in the process of selling that market animal to accept anything less than that. They're good at it. They get value and add value to it, and we need those packing plants to be able to get rid of this product. We can't sell them to each other, and we can't eat them all.
That's a good point. Mike, I understand you're from Virginia as well. What's your question?
Yes, in the past couple of years, we've heard a lot about premise ID and the importance of traceability of the cattle. But in Virginia, or in my part of Virginia, we don't see that, being a value to the farmer.
Creating premiums?
Yes, being paid a premium for, being able to trace it back to the farm. And I was just wondering, when do we see this being implemented even further into the industry as we go forward?
Yeah, great question.
Well, I'll answer one of those questions. We buy a lot of feeder cattle out of Virginia, and there are times when we pay premiums for age and sourced cattle. That's not the same thing as premise ID, but if you've tagged them up and you've identified them, and if they have a health program to go along with them, a lot of times those are worth more money to us. Colin, I'm not sure where the dollars are right now on the. Could you answer that as far as how we're funding the premise ID and the ID program?
Yeah, on the federal side, his concerns are spot on, and they've been echoed by producers across the country, and that is why we saw Secretary Vilsack and USDA get rid of what was their National Animal Identification System, and they've put together a new program that is currently being vetted out by state vets and industry that is something that's going to put a little bit more control in the state's hands, which is something that we have pushed for quite some time, because the states are typically the ones that are going to be the first responders, and they need to know what program works best for producers in their state. So we're really encouraged by where we're going. USDA has engaged the industry, so NCBA and our members have been a part of a lot of these discussions, and the goal is to get something that's workable and runs at the speed of commerce and is not burdensome, which is what we once had. So right now it's still limited government funding on premise ID until we get this framework built out on what a new system would look like that actually helps producers, not hinders producers.
We have just a couple of minutes here, but there's another email question that I just heard of from Jerry in Tennessee, who had a question specifically about the current situation with the Cattlemen's Beef Board. Who wants to take that? We have to be crisp on this to get to break, but you want to take that, Scott?
I'll take that on in just a minute. The Cattlemen's Beef Board and the Federation of State Beef Councils are partners in the promotion of beef across the country.
Okay.
Of course, the Federation represents the 50 cents that the states control. The Cattlemen's Beef Board have that other 50 cents sent to them, and then they are simply supposed to administer that money as is outlined by the operating committee. Okay. There seem to be some concerns right now, some challenges. But the whole industry is committed to trying to work together, trying to continue to promote our product, continue to defend the beef industry, continue to look at beef safety, work with retailers, work with food service. These programs are so valuable to the industry as a whole, and we're hoping that these issues that have sprung up or that arise can be dealt with in an effective and a professional manner.
Very good. Well, we appreciate your comments, gentlemen, and we'll have some final thoughts from our experts just after this. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the show, and thanks so much for spending some time with us this evening as we discuss current beef industry issues with the experts from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. Let's get some final thoughts. Colin, would you start?
Well, we've talked about a lot of issues tonight, and our team is working every day to make sure that we get the cattle producer's voice heard, but that's not enough. It takes grassroots cattle producer involvement across the country to really make things work in our favor. So call your member of Congress, call your 2 senators, get involved, go to our website, beefusa.org, learn about the issues that we're fighting, but get involved.
That's great. Scott, what would you tell us?
I'm a checkoff guy, and so I would like to say how proud I am to work with NCBA. They are the major contractor for the checkoff. They are one industry and one organization that has literally stepped up to the plate, and they're working on all these issues, trying to promote and defend the beef production in this country, and I'm proud to be a part of them and proud to work with them shoulder to shoulder as a partner.
That's great. Bill, what would you tell us?
Well, I agree with Colin that we need producers that are engaged, but it starts with a membership. And we are as strong as our membership. We have a great base now, but we need to expand it and to have more people join up. And you can do that by going to the website and joining up. We would love to have each and every listener on this program be a member of NCBA. So please help us out that way.
That's great. What is your presidential challenge, Steve?
My presidential challenge tonight would be to involve yourselves. Everybody, Bill brought up a great point. We need members. We also need to be totally involved, as Colin asked. It's not enough just to write a check. You've got to get totally involved and talk to Congress and help us out when we ask for that. You know, this week we're having our summer annual meeting. Is going to be going on. And if you're within driving distance or flying distance, it kicks off here in a couple days, and we would certainly like to have you come down and participate as we make plans for the industry for the next year.
Well, I understand that the theme is joining together. Give us your take on why that theme and what this week's going to mean.
There's only so many of us around, and we have to join together as producers. We need to link arms and figure out how best to take our issues forward and promote ourselves out in the industry and to consumers. And that's kind of what we're going to be working on. We've got a host of issues. These folks have been great this evening. They brought up lots of great questions, and we're going to have the opportunity to work on all those questions as the week goes on.
That's great. Well, thanks for all you do, and thank you so much. Good luck for a great week here in Denver. You can see this episode and others online. Just visit us at cattlemen2cattlemen.org. You can also become a fan of the show on Facebook, and you can follow us on Twitter. Thanks for joining us for this special edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. We'll be back here next week with all new programming. We hope to see you then, right here on RFD TV. Good night.